Some people get the winter blues. Just something about those dark and empty days that turns their sadness switch on. That's the season where people seasonal depression hits, right? Right? Well, that's the summer for me. In fact, the brighter and crowdier the streets are, the worse. The summer's really when, you know what? Let me explain. Aside from the high weather mixing with the fact that I get hot super easily and take forever to cool down, not one of my summers can I say I did something I wanted. From the moment I started having non materialistic desires or experiences, which was at age 10, to now, as active as my every summer possibly was, none of the activities were actually for me. Now, for reference, I constantly use 10 years old as a starting point for where everything in this podcast started because that was when I had my first ever desire. I was at my desk in my 5th grade classroom and everybody at that table was talking about their experience going to Chuck E. Cheese. Guess who was the only one at that table that hasn't been to Chuck E. Cheese? So that's where the 10 years old thing comes from. Ever since then, I had a mental bucket list. I took a mental note of the things that I wanted to do so that when I finally had a break from school, especially summer break, I could finally get to do those things that I've been waiting months to do. Every year since I was 10, I've been waiting to cross off at least something. And this list doesn't just stay at 2 or 3 things. With every year that passes by, more and more is added to it. But guess what? None of it has been done. And that's what the summer does. The summer reminds me of so many things I wish I could do. Pool days, beach days, ice cream with friends, all non-existent. But they don't even have to be summer activities. I get reminded of the things I wish I could have done in general. Simply seeing the fact that the doors are extra open in the summer because so many things are open and more accessible makes things worse. People are off more during the summer. People like the weather more. So things are more crowded because more people are taking advantage of this time. Knowing that I'm doing nothing that I actually want to do hurts 10 times more in the summer than any other time of the year. It's crazy how much potential this time of year has, and I know nothing about it. Something that doesn't only pertain to the summer, but that the door is wide open for during that season, is walking and having a moment in the horizon. I've always loved the idea of walking and exploring, and one of those things that I used to do almost every night when I was little was look out of my window into the distance, into the horizon, whether it would be in the evening or nighttime, and watch the airplanes go from one side to the other. And I always wondered, what's over there? I want to go over there. I want to see the horizon. I wanted to do that for years and years and years, and I never got to by my parents' grace, of course. It was actually in 2022 with a guy we'll call Nick. Beautiful man, love him so much. We went to school together, and we walked to the waterfront after a school day. We were actually already on a walk when we ran into a senior at the time who suggested we turn and walk all the way down, and it was pretty. Brooklyn Heights Promenade, by the way. I actually sent the senior some photos later on to show him. But that day, I thought a lot. I really couldn't believe I just did that. I couldn't believe I was there. This is what my parents couldn't do for me? This is where my parents couldn't take me? This is what my parents didn't care to listen to? 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and now I'm doing this with someone outside of my family at 16, 5 years later? As much as I love Nick, this was a bittersweet thing. When I got back home and looked into the horizon again, it was with new eyes. I really felt something different, like I just saw that. I was there. And of course with somebody super special and amazing too. Which really is important because at that point, if it would have been with my family, it wouldn't have been as enjoyable as it was because they really didn't care. So it would have been forced for them anyway. Giving a small tidbit about my family, my parents are not from the US. They're immigrants from Central America, and that's exactly a place that we go to every 1 to 2 summers for vacation, which I recently realized they're not even vacations for me, they're simply trips that I'm forced to go on and that I don't actually enjoy. I've learned a ton from being there a total of around 7 to 8 months out of my life, and it's taught me a lot about living outside of the US, but it averages a good 2 to 4 on the scale of vacation. We go, whether it's during July or August, of course because of school break, and I feel this extreme sadness being there. Because before that, while we're still here, our last few days, I'm thinking there's so many things I want to do here at home, the state I live in, which by the way has a ton of things to do, and we're leaving? This just goes to show another bad summer memory that reoccurs. Yes, reoccurs. Wait until you hear about summer 2024 in the first episode of the next season. So, yeah, the summer's a vibe to a lot of people. But taking it a step further is nighttime. Nighttime can be such a vibe. I've never experienced it, but I've always loved the look and assumed the feel of it, especially with photography. Self portrait photography eventually becoming a coping mechanism. I realized that the reason I was so attracted to darker, more nighttime photography was because of that calm feeling I got. I realized that I kept choosing nighttime to take my photos because, in a way, I could mimic being outside at nighttime. Yeah, I was constantly imagining myself outside, hanging out with people, having late night car rides, eating at fast food places, near the water under the bridge, at the carousel under the bridge, all while I was at home in my room taking photos. It wasn't the real thing, but what else did I have? And when we would go to the airport, we'd frequently go between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m., so that's been the only way I've been able to experience some sort of thing at nighttime. Which doesn't even count because we're just traveling from Brooklyn to Queens in a car on the highway to go to the airport to leave the place that I actually want to do things in. And while my family and I are in that car on our way to JFK, no one in that car even has any idea I have do things at nighttime on my bucket list. If only they knew. Every summer gets worse and worse. Every time the season comes, I compare with the last one to see what things I've been able to cross off my list since then, and I haven't been able to say anything. Every year, the annoyance, and it's starting to become resentment, gets stronger. This one day I was walking and there were two girls in front of me, and one of the girls was telling the other one, the kids are about to be out all day, the kids are going to be out all afternoon. And you may be able to see that this was originally posted on Spotify May 12th, but in New York, we start to get spotted sunny days in April, even more in May, completely hot June, August, September, October, and it starts to close out around mid-October or even late October. So the summer vibe can indeed be 5+ months out of the year here. All in all, I don't like the summer because of the reminder of the lack of support that I've had for my desires and my wishes ever since I was little, as well as the jealousy I feel for other people's happiness during the summer. Now, I hate talking bad about anyone, but when you have parents that prevent you from everything, you can't help but feel those negative feelings. Let's get into it.